Okay, I'm going to start. And first off, what I think, I've got a serious problem that's going on with me. Not many people, and the people that are involved, I'm not sure, take things as seriously that I do. I've been complaining to the U.S. government ever since the Snowden revelations that was ending in 2013 but still going. And put your ears on, because I don't got time to talk about it. That was probably a Trump-Obama platform. But since there is a antitrust going on, and there are AI criminals and manifestations in the government, and Google's so incorporated right now, and there's been a Veritas, I'm going to go back to what I was talking about. My computer was being hacked by Iranian immigrants next door to me in housing. At the time, I was having a lot of confliction about my privacy. I was unaware, but aware that things were not right. At the same time, I just went through disability and got on insurance, Medicaid, Medicare, and I received a shot. And I'd previously got out of a relationship that at the time of Wendy Davis, and I did not know it was her. She was sending a 27-year-old picture, and I think anyone else's voices should be in there. Me or something. Physics. But back to what I was saying. I IC3'd the government, an internet complaint to FBI, a couple of them. I started getting overcharged, and I'd had a Skype relationship, as I told you, with a former senator that was going for Attorney General, and Greg Abbott, and there was a Rick Perry integration in there into presidency. But going back to the beginning, when I started calling about these people in my community, there was someone that was manufacturing opioids in the community. And after I received a shot, I started feeling like I couldn't breathe. I felt like that, no one's stranger or accustomed to any type of drugs, but people just don't do drugs like that. And I started having feelings I could not breathe, like it was methamphetamines. These very orangish coming out of my mouth, nose, ears, things that other people wouldn't experience or even know to engage in. And these are corporations, these are businesses. And as you all know, the surveillance program, the institutions, the incorporations, the delivery systems, and they're actually businesses that make these items. And it seems to me that they perfected a few of them. And cracks, cocaine, leathering issues over here. And I'm a pretty fast talker. I don't know what this person is doing over here. I don't know what you want me to say to you. But there's people trying to interfere on my YouTube channel right now, and I've already been suppressed on it because I'm a musician. I play music, and I used to promote a lot more of my personal hobbies. I just haven't been able to do that here lately, and I'll get into some of that later about the way I feel about certain people passing away, musicians, and pedophilia, because it has a lot to do with pedophilia. And so I went and filed a police report, and I turned in a counter-check fraud to the police, And I'd had the police out here several times about internet and privacy. And at the same time, when I went to the police station, I filed and filled out a release of information. I have a form, I would get it and show it to you. But I ended up I got a document from Nikki Haley in her Office of Policy and Programs, not speech, from someone else. Don't interfere in me. It's not your lawsuits. But this is basically reading the criminal investigations and riding around. Well, anyway, that's June 17th, 2014. There's been an ongoing racial issue and profiling for me. When I filed this report, I'd been getting tax notices at the time that it had the Lois Lerner scam that I was going through. And the next day, it was calling for on the 13th that I was supposed to pay some kind of $300 and something. But they don't lock people up for taxes. I'm on disability. I have PTSD. And I started my legs started going numb all of a sudden. I couldn't feel it. It was like the left side of my body started having problems. I went up to the hospital, and I'd already, like I said, I'd already contacted the NSA, I contacted the FBI, I contacted the governor in the state that was answering the phones, and filled out a couple of reports, because I kind of knew what was going on, but I kind of didn't. And so after I filled out this report, interfere, like I said, I went to the hospital. There was a minority hospital there, and they had some training students, and they told me what they were giving me. They ended up fast-tracking me, and I had written the Obama administration and everything like that. And they gave me a spinal tap. It kind of freaked me out, because there was a woman that went in there, was affiliated kind of in the Democratic scene, I think, is kind of a blue dress, talking about kind of some kind of Facebook history or something. But to make matters worse, as that time went on, this guy come in there with a German man. He pulled out this package of gels and shots, and he ripped it open. There was this big fucking needle in it. Excuse me, my language. And there was some pink gels and overlooking things, and he said, maybe you like the Germans, maybe you like the Egyptians better, or the Germans better. And he was freaking me out. And this is while I was getting the procedure done. And so but I already had this big needle in my back that was about that long. And after I got through, they pulled some fluid out. They told me what drugs they were giving me, and I was breathing them. And I didn't understand what was happening either. They told me that they were giving me cocaine, PCP, methamphetamines, and some type of oxypams or something like that, in the opioids. And well, anyway, they told me to take Tylenol. Said I could have headaches. Well, I got home and my head started depleting. Not just a headache. I know what a headache feels like. I haven't had one since I was a child, since I was very young. And I started smelling chemotherapy. And this is giving like outpatient. And I realized that through mediations, and they started talking about what they were going into mental health phases, about paranoid diseases, or maybe people are bipolar, but they don't really have an excuse for what they were doing over the programs, over the institutions. So anyway, after that, I immediately had to go to the hospital because I didn't understand what was happening. And they gave me some kind of shot, some kind of Benadryl and something else. It was amazing. It just went away, but my brain felt like it was just cancerizing aggressively, or depleting, like it was twisting in knots. The whole thing like sucked from my skull. and these are the national security records. It's a horrible smell, and this went on for about 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks. And I ended up going back to the doctor several times, and finally they said, there ain't nothing we can do for you. And I called national security and with the Obama administration on what was going on. They finally stopped, and my insurance was taken. And then I ended up, as I said, I was fast-tracked. I kept in touch with calling the FBI, and I had ended up calling the Justice Department. And I spoke to Eric Holder, and I told them what was going on, and they knew about my situation in Texas because of who I used to talk to. But I also told them about my intrusion problems with Iran, and by then they were already sanctioned, so they were using cyber insecurity and attacks from banks. There was a $600,000 Clinton Goldman Sachs speech attack. And little did I know at first, and that's pretty freaking bad if you know the history of what's going on, not only with myself but theirs. And so mediation started becoming more in the NSA category. I remember putting my screen down, and national security was involved, but it wasn't as bad as things are now, nearly. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. However, I had ended up going to the hospital about 3 weeks later at the end of December. This happened like I said, this went on for 2.5, 3 weeks. So by the time that happened, it was already January. It was already Christmas time. I had a horrible Christmas. And I went to the hospital several times. I remember I went to a trip to Colombia, and I came back and I started having a headache again. I started having headaches, by the way, before that I had started experiencing these aggressive brain problems, even tumoristic tendencies. And then some of the communications were exposed in the government about be careful what you wish for. I never wished for anything physically, but I went back to the hospital several times. This group that had started this process, I learned into the Obama administration how their transgender agenda improved over the years. But I mean, like my asshole was loosening or something. And I noticed immediately something wasn't right. There was MK Ultra involved in the government. That Google has upgraded a lot of things through the years and incorporated this through a lot of corporations. You can even get sensitive through Marriott. And this is a lot of the business model that I became in the government. So, in saying that, when I went back to the hospital, they were supposed to give me something for pain. They were going to try to get me in pain management. They had stuck some kind of IV in my arm, coming in there with 2 big shots. And I think it was the 22nd of January, if I remember correctly, on the document that I have. And I have medical records for release right now within legislation. But no one can manipulate those. The FISA one you're doing now. I don't need your bullshit. You need to stop fucking with me. But you need to leave me alone. They put the shot in my arm, and I asked them what it was, and they would not tell me. And I remember seeing something about chloride on it, but it wasn't your normal 0.05 injection. This is a concentrated dose, like up in the 20s, like 20 point something else. And whenever they started injecting the shot, I was going out and under, like my life was being taken. and she kind of gritted her teeth and done it, acting like she was threatening to kill me with it. And this nurse's name was Stephanie, and Dr. Fresh, and all of these fresh things in the media. So I ended up, she went back for it and started pushing the rest of it in. I was going out. I took the damn thing out. Blood squirted across the floor, and she was like, no, no, no. And she was like, oh, it's a. And I said, no, no. And as I walked out of the hospital, and they said, well, you haven't been discharged yet. And she looked at the nurse that gave me the shot. She said, what did you do to him? And I said, you were trying to kill me with a shot. You wouldn't tell me what it was. She said, well, you haven't been discharged. And I just kept walking. She said, just let him go. And I immediately wrote the Justice Department, and especially whenever it involves insurance, I called the Justice Department about it. And I remember calling several places, not only through the enrollment system of Medicare, and then so they had started a small business on me. And so I was directed towards that area, and I didn't know what to think about that. Obviously, that's not what anyone wants. Anything in where your personal information is getting gone, and your social security and your digital information has been compromised genetically. And they ended up going into playing a whole media skit with these areas, and it started off kind of on MSNBC and CNBC with certain mediations. But I called several media organizations whenever my brain started doing like that, because I was in fear of my life. And of course I was already being mediated, so it just made things more into a national security area. And they ended up going into Ukraine, starting a network and a proxy there. And I was used through a lot of computer language through the market. And what happened after that police fraud report and I received a vaccination, I was going to a Palmetto Medical Associates, but I also had fraud at the bank, at Palmetto Bank. And then I got the bigger attack at the banks. They put me in a juvenile institution, the Bureau of Prisons, in my housing development. And I'd sent a letter, and they were manipulating something that I'd had a DUI for like 10 years ago. And there was a racism issue started. They went into Iraq, and of course they were talking about making Iran nuclear agreements, because the bank started basically marketing a large oil and gas agenda in 2014 was a year of action. And so we got to the physics, and put that on your purple stuff, and it got to the point to where, and there was a lot of media involved, to where, you know, even Trump was hosting, and what was going on through the media. And there were several networks. I looked on my user and my login, my computer, and it was like, Jesus, the numbers. And I found Google documents to where I had community surveillance, and it was numbered and picked off. And then I found some other documents, so I wrote them down. I wrote some of it down, and it was replaced by a Novartis document. So obviously I think the Clintons stole the document, or were directed to steal the document, and it was replaced by a Novartis document. And I continued to be on a charitized health care plan. I went back to a mental health doctor, and I had told them, I said, they yanked my insurance. And they said, well, they can't do that. She said, well, we can get your insurance here. And I said, well, how was that? You know, it's supposed to cover everything. And they give me a form about ADB, about deaf and blind, and then asked me why I came here. And I was talking with the advocates there. They'd said something about cocaine or crack or something, or cocaine. And she said, well, why did you have to go to ASVAB or something like, SADAC? And that is an alcohol and drug prevention program, because I had a DUI like 10 years ago. But at the time, they forced me to go to that class because I was going through an illegal conviction, and it was a second-degree DUI. I did the time for it, got it out of the way. I stayed in jail for almost a year in Greenville County, and she said, well, that is fraud if there's some other type of substance in here. And I said, yeah, because I don't do any type of substance. I've been, I said I've had some computer problems, and I know that my neighbor is involved in the government and immigration and sanctions, and I still don't understand why they frauded a lot of my records. But I had a lot of trips going out of that hospital back and forth. I had started having to go to the ball doctor immediately, and then I started having to go to a neurologist immediately, and a neck doctor. And so the government was acting in the role of these facilities and controlling these facilities. And as time goes on, even my ex-girlfriend started running a campaign. After they put me in this juvenile institution, I had to write a sworn affidavit. They ended up doing an immigration executive action. And there's earmarks involved, because the Clintons, and they started this email scandal on me. Bridgegate was happening, which, if I take you back to January, at the same time there was a Bridgegate scandal happening with Chris Christie. My name is Christopher Lee Johnson, and my lab records from my shot was sent to New Jersey. And so there was a scandal played on me through the Clinton email server and DNC server, through their campaign and military election campaigns, that little did I know that Huma Abedin, they were playing a Boston bomber scandal with the mind control and the zapping on the television. Is unbelievable what these people can try to get you to believe, because Hazlitt Davis is not a Wendy Davis daughter or another girl that is in Texas, and Greg Abbott should not have taken a Huma Abedin role in those issues, especially when it involves that kind of child Satanism, pornography, and trafficking. And whenever you have those type of emails from the Obama administration about your health and emails, and the Clinton Foundation, children's health care and mental health, is not very comforting to know that people want you dead. And that's very serious. So you can freaking mind. And what this police department was doing, I contacted the crime victims advocate several times. They started a police agenda in the media about racism, basically entering the police departments with these same kind of hospital-like tactics. Using the Spartanburg Police Department, there's been a number of deaths through these facilities, housing these institutions. And like I said, I live at home, I have no license, and I'm isolated, which was another Rand Paul issue during these Iranian nuclear negotiations and presidential campaigns. And the biggest problem is, if you knew what the kind of corruption that was happening, the crime victims ombudsman, the attorney general went on with the scandal of using the Spartanburg Police Department on the No Fear Act, and then some old DUI that I'd gotten out of the way that I'm not even in trouble for, and I'm done with it, it's done. I was in an appeals process whenever I got attacked through the appeals court, but I was housed in a Bureau of Prison setting. From my housing development, I received bad treatment from these hospitals. There was a lot of sports played, there was minority basketball, there was mediation on it from the Obama administration, and a lot of sports was played, and there was a lot of sports scandals. So what they're doing is introducing new ways for Nazi German depopulation on the public, and then using a lot of foreign policy, currency, ETFs, trading. A lot of big billionaires have invested on me and used a personal campaign finance speech for these very crazy satanic politicians in inner circles like Bilderberg and Bohemian Grove and Skull and Bones, and had a lot of presidents that had a lot of confliction on me, even Jimmy Carter and HW, and George W. Bush was campaigning for Jeb Bush. So whenever you have those kind of people that are abusing these institutions, and then you're singled out and disenfranchised through these institutions, and you're staying at home, don't bother me with some other kind of irrelevancy. So I'm going to defend. And Apple had started making a gay rights and privatizing businesses to give the mindset that they were discriminating on gays. Really, they were going for 2016 votes. There's only about 2 million. But like I said, in my housing development, when people's not gay and they're not child porn affiliated, if they're not satanistic affiliated, is very disconcerting. And if you have it's like this kind of document right here that says the South Carolina Department of Corrections is an appeal at the appellant, and this is a big problem for me because I'm in housing. I'm here, and then I have several more documents. And Apple Incorporated started using a court and a campaign agenda, and while the markets were going on with me in Russia and Ukraine, and sectorialism was introduced, a whole neck pain plan and spinal and neurological agenda was exposed. And when it got around November 24th, they were supposed to make some type of deal with Iran, but they were using the fast-track system of delivering drugs throughout sporting in the government. But they had already had a Fed rate plan to where they had took $100 billion in bonds off of these high-level criminals off of me in the government, and ended up making a bond rate payout. So I'm worth over $100 billion. I'm supposed to actually have this money by now. I've been fighting the system of making gun lobbies and military campaigns, finances in Syria, police shootings, which is struck down with ICE campaigns. And these are executive metadata, executive actions that involve Syria and military withdrawal. But these police departments have, and I was in the COPS program, the Justice Department Special Litigations Program, Federal Programs, Coordination, Compliance, Housing, shuffling me around in these institutions. I was put in as a victim at the end of 2014. They still had some more work to do about killing people while killing people. And what they don't understand is these people really don't understand what they're doing. They're really crazy because they have nothing to offer themselves in the future but saying we made the wrong decisions, and then saying, well, we're putting our own lives and our own future and all of these beautiful things that we have and technology and reversing it into an oil and gas agenda. There was a war and trade war started on me through a gay rights campaign, and like I said, there's nothing else involved there, but it's the fact that people are promoting penetration. So, and the simulation, and the government is not ready for that type of technology. They will never be ready for that technology. They will never be ready for any other stupid speech or technology for the world's problems that are consistent with starting in institutions like these that actually have executive actions that can kill you. not to just insult people's race or profile or past history of 9/11. 9/11 was used. I filed a court case because ISIS was used for propaganda. Corporations were in the role of taking the oil and gas, and so was the oil and gas involved. So they used an Ashcroft versus Iqbal case on me, and I put this through the South Carolina Supreme Court and through the Court of Appeals system because they were using two different police departments, one that was 10 years back and another one that is just recent with the No Fear Data Act and bank fraud, and then put me in some other type of institution, said it was some kind of PCR. Well, a PCR has nothing to do with that. A PCR is something that you would have to prove if you needed a new trial over one issue. Like if there was ineffective assistance of counsel, if there was some kind of evidence, if there was some kind of wrongdoing in one setting. But what was going on with me at the time, my life was in danger. I had my insurance taken, and they put me in jail for it, and then put a tax lien on my body for health care. And you don't jail people for taxes. And the first Senate bill was done here in the state for body cameras. So this is done by the Obama administration. They wanted police cameras everywhere. And they promoted this George Soros plan divided by race, gender, sex, religion, and finding these institutions that'll go out there and they'll kill someone for the crime bill. Talking about using drugs and fast track. Or people that are not involved. I have a VRA strike down that's argued by Eric Holder and two of them. But there's really a lot of other states involved because of the hospice documents that I got with insurance and Medicaid and Medicare integrity and Nevada Solution. Is because whenever I write these institutions or I call them, they make sure to call them politically about what's happening. So they know what's going on politically, so they give me these documents through these political systems like Medicare, Social Security, even a check-the-box system to where a beneficiary and a representative, would be locked up in an institution all of a sudden and start seeing these documents till 2015. And that's why I say that Social Security and Nazi German depopulation is a serious problem. Now they're under tribunal. But these people have tried to kill me. There was a second D-class on torture for these institutions that was talked about in 2014's Year of Action. And they kept running this through 2015 in the courts, and Ashcroft and Iqbal was run through trial to get George Bush out and Jeb Bush out for war crimes. And one of the areas in the executive actions that was struck down that ended up going into these email servers, and Bernie Sanders and all of these different campaigns in Syria, which was a lot of Clinton wrongdoing and Obama administration policies. There was a whistleblower through these campaigns. His name was Bradley Podleski. He was on MSNBC and some couple other channels that put him on. And even on YouTube, you can find a lot of this in other search engines about some explaining to do. And I had contact with this person through communications and public relations, and people were taking up for me at a time. After they had this email hearing, it had gotten more serious through mediation. They started trying to blame him for some of the women's and catalysm problems, which the Clintons didn't want people to find out about Pizzagate. They started talking about there's a pizza rat, really it's Pizzagate. That's what they're talking about, Nexium and all of these issues. And Disney also had some problems. In fact, they're worried about the media and all of the porn suppression and people not telling the truth. So I was suppressed through these courtrooms, and there's an idiot over here trying to stick me with injecting the border with medical. This has been struck down, but there's a stupid ass over here trying to monitor this and enter everything that I do through my accounts and information, like that they're going to take world domination on for serious, and they're going to stay with. I have a death spiral in my family. With these police departments, there's a guy named Timothy Homseth. I thought I was the only one, and I've been done like this for years. But I found out there was another person, and I thought it was the only one. They've been playing Castle Grayskull because Mike Pence has some problems with security. and these special counsels. They didn't prosecute the first Hillary Clinton counsel. They had rushed judges in because they had facilitated him during this whistleblower that they were trying to profile for acting like that he had some kind of porn agenda and was spying on everyone and kept up with me because they wanted to know everything the Clintons were doing. Even Trey Gowdy was appointed out of Spartanburg in South Carolina, Greenville area, as a prosecutor. And this is done by John Boehner, so you can tell where the politics are coming from, you know. It's not like it's a secret, or this is a secret. They used this and it's. And like that there's another girl named Stacy in Texas, like Mitt Romney and her girlfriend has some kind of problems, or Wendy Davis. And I couldn't believe that she had ran on the police to kill me. And that's very crazy. And there are a lot of billionaires are involved. And what these police departments are doing is they've been running death and executive policies that have killed other people for racism and put me in the hospital. And these people won't even treat me over here because they've contracted epididymitis. They had used STDs. Like I said, my privates were attacked. I started going to a colon rectal surgeon. I stayed in the cancer building for 3 years. And I have a hard time accepting other people's lack of compassion. And this juvenile institution was prosecuted by the Justice Department. And in saying that, at the time, whenever I was going through these facilitations, the whistleblower was a national security issue to the people. The Clintons made him a national security problem in the airwaves. Now, when he facilitated some judges and Joe Biden and started cancering using speech. And there was a lot of calling through the banks. He had threatened to kill the Clintons because of the way that they were doing him with his mind. And probably had every fucking right to, if you ask me, and what was happening. But I mean, whenever you're in that type of powerless system and you're using whistleblower protections, those people involved in the CIA and all of those different areas, they're not going to protect you. And at the time, whenever everything was going, they had rushed the Supreme Court in. The gas chamber was exposed electronically. It was giving me cyanide. I couldn't breathe. I had to go to the hospital. And I was in these institutions. They had rushed the judges in after facilitations. John Roberts and Stephen Breyer, this is mediated through CNN and other stations, MSNBC, because anytime when you involve judges in a special counsel in the Justice Department, and there's ongoing congressional hearings about and what's going on with McCabe and Comey right now, in these so-called FISA abuses, that Trump did not go through any kind of torture. I know because I'm sitting here being tortured right now, is saying this right now, and he has used banking as a result in fighting and having to use national security and counterterrorism because of the people that are involved in these networks and businesses. They want to hold the business accountable and not be responsible, using the second D class and permitting and trying to promote suicide. So I don't take any other psychological records lightly whenever they're using aggression, police shootings, promoting different types of gun lobbying campaigns. If you like your doctor, you can keep it. And I have emails on Obama and Clinton's. And when you're using the police and ICE and ISIL and propagandizing, going back into Iraq and Islamism, and using an Ashcroft versus Iqbal case to single out and detain a person to buy elections numerically dependent on poll taxes, And this is taken from the maximum into South Carolina from the state of Texas, and was worked through the Attorney General's office. So there's corruption between backing the banks, the NRA, and Syria, and these campaigns were run through the circuit courts and the district court. And right now there's a magistrate judge that is under scrutiny. But I mean, I had went through these campaign and elections after I was judged on by the judges in March of 2016. The judges said that they cannot kill me. This is high-level security through Richard Legend, Mike Rogers, a couple of other people. William, I don't need to tell everyone everything because I don't even know certain people's names. There was a lot of standing for me at the time because they were going to prosecute the Clintons. And James Clapper, they released all these emails on me with data on my body, and they could not practice and run their religion for president because they will. What happened was they said that they could not kill me or run the Eighth Amendment or torture after they had already had the second D class, and I'd been through these campaigns over Apple. I've got documents on Apple to where they could not, they did not request a poll. And if you don't request a poll, then why in the hell are they running around on people's privacy and then requesting a poll still, and then people just using me for some of these campaign issues? And it's very serious. Like I said, there's a monopoly. There's a person in the Supreme Court right now that's running off of my case, but he's going to end up dying if I die. This is a case through Apple that I have with a declaration of inmate filing. And that declaration, you see I didn't sign that because whenever they detain someone and release them, I've got release documents from this other juvenile institution that's prosecuted. But going back to March of 2016, they killed the whistleblower, Bradley, and then came back after me. And then there was a counterterrorism campaign. They did not prosecute, continue with elections, continue with this Aberdeen and Abbott scandal in Boston about two other girls that are not even involved in those issues in the state of Texas, manipulating me over Wendy Davis, which is not a manipulatable issue, but it's just doing it over the other people that is really concerning. And I ended up calling the FBI several times, called the Justice Department, because Weiner had came back with Uma, and there had been some sexual issues that they had gone through around the time of when Bradley was murdered. He's not suicided, it's murder. These are executive actions, and these are patents in the government that he was killed by, and I have this data on me for it, and I'm being held for VRA decisions that have already been struck down. I've been through 4 Supreme Courts. These are in our courts. And I ended up calling the government because they were trying to kill me with a bunch of crazy data stuck on my neck. Big time data. Big data. And the market's very verbal with this. They're very verbal with me. And these campaigns went on got shut down. James Comey ended up shutting down, going into the Weiner laptops. They got the frazzle drip. So they're trying to frazzle kill me right now. And I got Trump elected because they were going to buy the election. Even though he has got a lot of support, they can do whatever they want when they're manipulating those systems using Russia elections. They had already started building a case because they knew that there's people that don't want Hillary Clinton, and after what they did not prosecute the special counsel because they don't take one unless they got evidence to prosecute. So that's what's happening right now. And Trump ended up using me, using my national security issues and counterterrorism like I was a human shield, using speech to put things back on people that were trying to kill me. And they ended up using wrestling, sports, basketball, football, and all these different things because I watch sports, but I don't play sports like that. They're issuing unfairness and playing a role on a very bad fast track issue and some of these high and low issues in the market. And people are not freaking gay. People aren't pedophiles. He started taking on pedophiles. And whenever I'd filed a court case and started contacting the OIG, which he is still not even responding correctly, people are very disappointed in him because they made people step up to the plate, or they made people stand up. But whenever it comes to them standing up and doing their jobs, they don't protect people. So after the market tried to kill after the 2016 election, and they'd gotten everyone all used to everything, people didn't want to kill me. And then there was a lot of commotion being configured through the Trump administration, and Mike Pence was being a traitor, and they were planning to overthrow, but he's embraced this tactic. And the banks that are associated with Goldman Sachs, that's not a great agenda. They don't admire that because of the speeches and killing and making most of the terrorism and Syrian Gestapo practices. I think even David Roberts still has. They tried to crunch his YouTube account, and there's been a lot of people that have been exposed. And as David Zublik has reported on, I've even got tribunal documents about these tribunals. Geez, if I can find it in a second, but I mean, they tried to kick me out over hurricanes and other different types of counterterrorism and eviction notices that I got here over a 5-day issue. There's a 5-day eviction notice. They give me some kind of hurricane broadcast report about Irma, and these people crazy started a predatory lending practice, started upping the rent because there were new buyers and owners that started. They had bought into a banking system, got a loan, and so as time went on, I started complaining to Michael Horowitz about what was going on with me in his office, and I'd ended up filing a suit for the money that I'm worth for $100 billion something, and then filed a suit on Apple. That's where I got the declaration, but they had already run an Iqbal campaign on me. Mueller was pulled in. That directly involves him. So, I mean, that's already premeditated. They already ran trials from 2015 going into these areas, and then I've been released, and then they kept trying to stick me back in these lockup issues with bio and German Nazi depopulation, using Social Security. An Ebola scandal was played on me, to where Apple and Facebook, and they did this numerous times, but they were flying people around using the airlines and Apple to take the oil down. So that sparked a trade war, and Steve Scalise and Dick Cheney in the Bush administration was involved, and this is a campaign problem. Meanwhile, while the Clintons were taking some kind of side with reversing the oil boys and going into the tech boys, these people were so rich, they're even richer than Putin now. It's like Bezos. My neighbor works for Jeff Bezos. So they obviously play that here. There's been AI and war clouds through the Trump administration, kind of betraying the interest of what he was standing up in the rates of what somebody is worth. And these people don't deserve this money because they killed through the Justice Department over these campaigns. Bradley was killed. Sean Lucas, he had filed a class action with Bernie Sanders. He found face dead in his bathroom. Seth Rich was killed. Julian Assange was involved. Seth Rich was a whistleblower. They come up with this fancy bear scandal. Sent him documents. Julian Assange released them, but at the same time I was already contacting the feds and the FBI, and call me knows that people did not want those people because I would be dead. I'm still supposed to be dead. The way the Trump administration has betrayed and stabbed me in the back on issues has not understood what the issues about people not wanting to work while he's on the side of his kids and business in the White House with a tax lien on their body and holding these institutions. People can be arrested in this state. And so after I had filed a suit to go back through the courts, I got the declaration, and I went to the Fourth Circuit. They de novoed me. I had a judge, Mary Geiger Lewis, that then withdrew out of the Apple suit and was a lawyer for me. And then, but never really defended me because of what they were doing. They're trying to kill. They're trying to kill people in the courts. Everything that you know about our privacy, keeping it private, mind control, patents, Google, other documents that I have, everything that you know is being taken from us. And I'll show you another document that I think I have here quickly. Let's see here if I got it. This is from the Justice Department while I filed this $100 billion suit on my rates. And there's a Fed FOIA on this. You say that Department of Justice. But if you look up my name in the rule of law, you can find these cases this involves. It didn't have room for it. But financials are involved. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Chase Citibank, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, the Treasury Department, Federal Reserve, and the State Department because of the nuclear agreement. I got a nuclear agreement with this government. And as the time the judge pulled out, went to the magistrate judge. They de novoed me and went to the magistrate judge, and then they kept sending me arguments saying, well, do you agree with the magistrate judge? I was like, no. And then they went to the en banc, and then they didn't request a poll. So I wrote to Michael Horowitz more after that, went to the Federal Circuit Court of Claims. They gave me tariffs and documents and what was going on, sent that back to the courts because I kept waiting on Michael Horowitz to respond. They're just using me, trying to kill me through these institutions. They unsealed indictments and arrested Obama, Tillerson, Bush, Soros, and there was a lot of other unsealed indictments that at that time period there was already executions going on. John McCain was executed. He had won off an election on me in 2016. H.W. Bush was executed, his involvement in hospitalization. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Tony Podesta. And a lot of the music with John Podesta and Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell putting out the pedophile documentary, and a lot of people died. Robin Williams, Paul Walker, Philip Seymour Hoffman, playing history about suicide, drug use, using the gun lobby for military campaigns, and the people that are in charge that have way too much power. And you know, I'm a musician. I play as a hobby on the side, but I don't play that much anymore. And the reason that I don't play that much anymore is because there are stupid jerking around idiots that think that they're going to get off on frazzle. And I don't understand that terminology or philosophy. The government is stupid for even trying to make all of these issues happen. My life has been so crazy. I've almost died in the past couple of days. And the Trump administration's lack of enthusiasm for understanding, and then having another email, playing another email with Wendy Davis and winning, people aren't going to win with what they're doing and grayskulling me. And then having the Democrats that haven't said anything in over 5.5 years started entering this race. No one tells the truth. Now, whenever they were arrested, I was immediately connected to Obama. And I don't think that they like me that much. But I started being tortured more and being retaliated because what the Obama administration's problem is, they were closing Guantanamo through these second-D classes while they detained me. And then Trump wanted to open it. So this went on about opening it, renovating. Now these people are on the streets now. Obama, even Clinton Foundation is indicted under propertized issues. They've been out here running. Patrick Shanahan was let go. They took an AI executive action that is catalytic to people's civil liberties in Section 508, disabilities, or anything that they're on. And one of the biggest problems is that they have waited so long. It's been 9.5 months. They released Obama. He made a German speech. First time they'd seen him. It's earlier back in the year. I mean, a German speech. You're following me? And Trump has been arguing, taking the word of people like Soros or some of their backers in what their plans are: manipulation, genetics, racism, and the Clintons. They've been killing for the Clintons, and the militaries have been refuteless, and been consciencelessness on me about what's happening involving Iran, snapping back Iran sanctions, doing that over Clinton, acting as if though that there's some kind of unpeaceful process that they need to radicalize this government, take our police systems down, our complaint systems, take the Justice Department down. You just seen that document, didn't you? These are civil issues. Corporations cannot lock and kill you up. And kill you. This is a police case that I have and filed, and even have a report on the bank fraud. You see this? This was filed back in December 12th of 2013. And then here's another number, but they didn't put the officer's name. It's just the same number for a different case, for a different officer. They just didn't put the officer's name. It's identical, 13101-1552. And so I called them out multiple times here, and they're supposed to be treating me with dignity and respect. Now the cablers ran a scam on me. They started charging people for taxes with MK Ultra, and then certain people died. I mean, people could literally sue the cable corporations for what they put on. And there's a death spiral in my family that Paul Ryan had called out in November of 2017. He'd been interrogating my family, making a joke out of the movie industry because of the minority film and some of the racism categories. But I'm not an actor. I've been trying to take care of these problems for almost 6 years now. And I've been spied on for since I moved in here, since 2012. By my next door neighbor, but didn't get exposed until 2013 over Iran, because I didn't know who it was at first. And then, you have the Snowden revelations. So I've been tortured. I'm lucky to be alive. I rewrote back to the courts to reopen these cases because they said Obama and Brennan, all of them will will a check in the Clintons, because they were using me. After I won the election and they had numerically got the votes, there was a lot of votes stolen through Google, and made people take on people again. Didn't care. I'm just going to kill people through these places. Pulled all these crazy records about school and pulled a lot of business records, and have been disseminating issues. I got FOIAs through the Treasury, the Federal Reserve, the Justice Department, the Veterans Affairs scandal that was done through John McCain and Bernie Sanders, and using it in South Carolina, acting as if though Arizona and what they're doing about the exit strategy with the Gestapo and McCain's execution, like that they're doing people justice about capturing people in the courts. And the Trump administration has not been so understanding. And with these email systems, got a lot of girls involved after they had arrested some of these high-level elites. And there's 70,000 unsealed indictments. What do you think that you're doing? I don't need your performance. I'm not an actor. So don't use your data to interrupt me over some other type of virus like Ebola or something. Are you fucking crazy, or throat cancer? These people are fucking crazy. Chuck Hagel didn't even do that shit. It was the corporations that were involved. But they use ethnics. They can't even explain anything about anyone in the state of anywhere that would have something like that. Because now you would have to get them to ask you if you've been out of the country. But these people are crazy whenever it comes to weaponization. Psychopaths. The government has been incorporated with psychopaths. They're delusional. They think that you don't need your privacy, but they don't have theirs. But they act like that they don't understand that people don't take their privacy, spying, religion to the heart whenever these CEOs can kill you. And they cannot give people benefits like Veritas scandal, Cambridge Analytica, and Warren Buffett's involved, Overstock, Butini, and all of those different things played on me and Wendy Davis. A lot of this shit, and the Wiener has even been released before the government left me alone. Had seen him around. This whole Avenatti thing, he's been prosecuted, but they've had me on a torture platform. I'm about worrying about if they can get something to where people are using people for killing them over relationships. And that's the problem over Texas that has been bulked up. Because they're incorporated. I'm not really worried about them, but it's another issue for my family. Because they've been interrogated. They're bothering, they're stalking people with ethics. Anytime you use a family for personal gain or lobbying, that is an ethics violation. And there's executive orders on it that H.W. Bush had taken. And right now, even Bush has got a guilty plea, a W, and been out here roaming around free. They let people do what they want. And then I can overturn Iqbal because, people have been executed in the government, but they can't blame people for voting rights, their freedom, privacy, complaint systems, the seriousness of corporations trying to kill you over communication, psychological, vulnerable adult profiling like Iqbal. Do not start with your speech impediment, man. And I had rewritten back to the court. Now, for the last 5 months, the court did not respond. Little did I know that there was some kind of judicial misconduct there, that I'd sent them tariff documents about judicial misconduct, that they want to be misconductful. It wrote the judge, but the judge cannot judge me. The same judge, they tried to send it back to the same judge that was my lawyer for Apple, cannot judge whenever they point out being a lawyer, and then tried to send it back like it would go back to the magistrate. So I writ the clerk back at Greenville, went to Columbia, went back to Greenville, and they've been over here playing with people like it's nothing. I've got to go back to work. People got to go back to work. I'm not going to ruin because people want to kill people, ruin their reputations, their futures, because they don't want to leave people's privacy alone. Pretty normal individual. Don't have any crazy past, not a pedophile, not supporting them, not trying to kill for them in courts. Anything that you could do to people would not be explainable by the rule of law. I've been put through the rule of law. Speech cannot be used. If they kill me in these courtrooms, it's the death for press, the death for people's privacy, VRA, voting rights, complaints, police systems, because they've been struck down by the Supreme Court. And then there's FOIAs for it, so they're not protecting me. The pedophile task force should be protecting me. But for some reason, since I find out about Timothy Holmes's, what the difference is, and then how big of an issue my case is, because I actually was ran on and then placed policy on with finances and investments, and have been used for an international laundering ring, financial institution fraud, that I don't support. We believe in Christianity and baptism here, not Zionism, not anything that the Trump administration has been doing wrong through their advisory. And there's not an email scandal that I'm going to keep being involved with about being lit up, and people can't leave people alone about. So secretly what they're doing to people in court is, they're not telling you this in the media, and that's how crazy and stupid they are. When they start talking about racism, they're talking about me and free and fair elections. But they're not telling you all of who this is and who I am. So I'm telling you, what they're doing to me is fucking crazy. I mean, these people are seriously fucking insane. There's not even a word for crazy. And they think that people they need to be killed over institutions with serious proof, with guilty pleas, because they're not protecting me right now. And that's very scary whenever they're going to stay with my whole family over the people in the courts, the people in national security that have the cases with the pedophiles, and Nakasone, who is not taking up for people, who's not stood up. Dan Coates hasn't stood up that much, but he said he wants to come out there. We want to kill everyone. And James Mattis is back now, but they're acting like they've got some kind of assessment problems with playing games over Mark Esper and Shanahan. I don't even understand Mark Esper after coming off of Shanahan, like they're just going to start killing people after that kind of issue was happened, because they're getting personal with people on our level about domestic violence. And that executive action about AI and national security and privacy is bullshit. It's catalysm. He can kill you over your privacy. Trump makes it out like that he's getting the pedophiles and the world elites criminals. And then why is he acting like that there's a reverse to martial law on the public and their privacy, their laws? So this is upholding the Constitution. And it's a very serious issue because, you know, my cousin was have military families involved, was in the military, never seen combat, but was sent to the VA. And they want to kill people over going through AI and cloud warfare that was struck down by the claims court, Eric G. Bruging, through the federal claims court. Now Mattis came on board. They're acting like that they're trying to kill over his comments. He hasn't stood up. And it's like he's been asking people, well, what do you want me to do? And like some of the people that can't run the government through the military trying to wiggle their way out of terrorism and treason, trafficking, blackmail, sedition, RICO Act, the Logan Act, some of the biggest freaking crimes in the world. People's been executed. And here I am sitting here on my couch with all of the evidence because people need my evidence. They need to stop playing. This case would represent not playing politics with people through the media, the mainstream media lying to people, and what's been going on about Osama bin Laden really being killed in 2001, 9/11. And certain people have reported on this. And people have taken up for me through these YouTube channels. But what they don't understand is Trump is talking about draining the swamp. But what they don't realize is when you use the banks and Goldman Sachs attacks for your cabinet, that is not good, because those people are not represent the deep state. They're the Illuminati. They're Zionists. They don't care what happens through those councils. They hope for the worst. And the thing with Pence right now, and what they're doing to me about trying to unleash CERN weapons on the public, and dimensional weapons, to where even it can affect your balance and walking. The study of genetics, the genome, gravity, weight, trigonometry, the huge AI platforms that I've had on me, through bozos and other people that were involved, radio microwave frequency used, and trying to kill me, and Microsoft, IBM, Adobe, using my cell phone, all the information that I got. Stupid. Why would people don't even understand why they kill me. They have no idea. They keep saying, are they stupid? They even say retarded. But I mean, so I've got a new case in Apple because they'd never relieved me from these positions, not requesting a poll. And that is a $3.6 billion case. When you sue Russia for $70 billion and you make your company from a $700 billion company to a $1 trillion company with corporate bonds, that is very freaking serious. And whenever you're using 2016 D classes and second D classes and running trials about judicial corruption, misconduct, tariffs, even misconduct through the Congress, people are trying to kill over bioweapons. They're not trying to stop what they're doing over Nazis. They're trying to embrace them. They do not understand you have to stop and devaccinate people. Take the crime bill down. Take the Georgia Guidestones down. Take the J. Edgar Hoover for racism. You have to start filtrations through our climate and weather systems. And I'm a presidential candidate. You can find me on the FEC. My name is Christopher Lee Johnson. For president for an individual America. And people are individuals. And people need to represent our privacy. And these people are not telling you what's going on. The difference between the George Bush tribunals and the Trump administration's tribunals are, I'm waiting to see the difference in what they're trying to make. And Amazon is another one of these companies that has not been a difference maker. It's been a climate maker. And it's been a lot of bad DARPA oversight of what they've let war go on through the government. And it's not secret. It's not silent. There's a trade war. But you can't use a person for it. I've been involved with Europe and China and Japan, Brazil, a coalition. All of these finances that are invested and played and language that is used. And my uncle was killed. His name was Mike King. And they're threatening the rest of his family over there. And the conditions of what they're doing is very serious of what they ran through courts and the data in the FOIAs. The Post Office Inspector General, because of the declaration of inmate filing, you don't go over the police, release someone, and then do things 2 or 3 more times. That's crazy. And then threaten to kill people for businesses, corporations, their privacy, and then oversighting a terrorism network through national security, the CIA, and national intelligence, and the Justice Department programs of immigration that I was in by profiling me. The wall false flag. There's 50 states. There's 50 borders. People don't need to give in to playing deferred action. Profiling other Americans to when you can get an election through Obrador. You can pay immigrants to go to the border, detain them. But if you've been released to the maximum, they released 6,000 prisoners in Texas, and me, in South Carolina, about maximum drug sentences because of the high markets. And when you send more people over there, and then you're trying to kill a person and torture him, and then his family's involved, that's very serious. You don't need to play with that man. And whenever your future of your children using juveniles is involved, education. I didn't know any of this stuff when I first started. But they are not protecting anyone. It's very serious. But I want people to know that I'm not going to be president in 2020. Maybe I'll run in 2024. But they cannot kill a presidential candidate from Bernie Sanders having the death penalty on someone to where there was other bot elections going on, and that person was me, about put him to death. All these protests. The media cannot keep people silent. They cannot suppress people for racism. And people need to step up and do their part and tell the truth, even through impeachment inquiries right now, because they don't want to let Donald Trump get away with the banking and keeping people hostage. And whenever they fight back and forth about a man being worth money and don't know what's going to happen to other people, even if they cut off the weapons, are they going to devaccinate? Are they going to build onto someone else? Are they going to start killing people again? In strong depopulation, even Bill Gates has come out with this publicly about bioweapons taking over and his corporation shares. Very serious in what's happening. Pay attention to general dynamics. Pay attention to what the OIG at the Justice Department, now the Justice Department, and both the Office of Legal Corrupt Counsels are doing. Pay attention to how national security is helping the public and protect your medical records. And pay attention to what happens in So whenever if I should be in Forbes, but money is not everything to me. If I'd started out with this money thing and all these obstructed settlements and bragging about things like that these other people have about killing people and then giving them money from Walmart and Google and all of these campaigns, the Clinton Foundation, then I wouldn't even have anything to stand for within about rights of just my own privacy, much less of how much I'm worth by high-level elite people planning. Even Jet.net was a scandal program through the Justice Department. Inmate 17, a scandal. Inmates 370, a scandal that was done on me through the media with the airlines and the fake bombings. It's a Russian setup, but people do have campaign finances in Russia, and the Clintons and Trump and certain other people in Biden, but they can't kill people over those withdrawals from Syria and the data that I have on me. The data and the Syrian withdrawal from Canada and everything, or the coalition, the Middle East, it's very important. Of that military withdrawal, foreign military withdrawal is very important for authoritarianism. Pay attention to me, and whenever I put out something different, because I hope I got something better to tell you. I hope the Trump administration does the right thing over Iran, overlooks some of the negativity that's done over Afghanistan. The Bush administration's taking over 7 countries in 5 years, and it's been drug out to 18 or 19. Because I don't want people to be killed over AI and weaponization and their privacy gone. Because I did a diplomatic service involuntarily, I can't take it back, but they can do better, and they can get on the right track. And I've tried to help Donald Trump and tell him certain things, but John Bolton is out now, but will he have another one? That's a good question. And will the Pentagon stop trying to put their own sons and daughters for AI, cyber terrorism, privacy, healthcare, criminal justice, and trafficking, and some of the finances in these corporations, in business, and benefits, and your Social Security are the number one. There's no numbers for them. They're all number one. And hopefully the Pentagon will realize that over what's happened over these second tribunals. And hopefully national security. And I know some of the people that support me, like Richard Legend, Mike Rogers, and there's been several people in that building stand up for me, where a lot of them are being held to what jobs that they have now in lack of compassion, and hope that the Justice Department gives somewhere where people can go back to. Epstein, whenever you've had someone released and they're doing this in the courts and you're using a New York jail, and then Epstein was suicided, he wasn't suicide, straitjacket material. But pay attention to what I'm telling you about dying and the things that they've done to people through these campaigns, even using Megadeth lately with Dave Mustaine. Random voices out through the government and communications, public relations that are not even corporately involved. Personalities are not corporations. You have to decipher what they're doing. Stop trying to give me a fucking disease. You're black shit. And your microwave radio frequencies. But this is going all the way back. And this is not just 5G. 5G has been done from weaponization. It's been more inherent through the Obama administration. But they've been doing this with 4G, 3G, 2G. Spying on institutions and upgrading their anthraxes through the years. And, Zika, sexual diseases, don't play on me with they should not play on people with contracted illnesses like epididymitis or syphilis or anything like that in the past and provoke that type of microcephaly. But pay attention to what goes on, and God bless all of you, and I hope you have a wonderful day. See you next time.